Good morning. You didn't say it back. You didn't say it back. Should you buy pre-cut fruits and vegetables at the grocery store? That is the question that we're hopefully going to be able to answer by the end of this video. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new, like the video, and once you've had the time to formulate some thoughts in that head of yours, feel free to leave me a comment down below. And without further ado, let's get into another reaction video.
You have to stop buying pre-cut fruit from the grocery store, avoid it at all costs, and I'm going to tell you why. Recently, pre-cut fruit has been growing in popularity all over the world. I understand why. There seems to be convenience because you don't have to spend time cutting. It's easy to poke a fork into it, get what you want, save some space, especially for people with smaller kitchens. But here's how they are secretly poisoning you. In order to explain, let me ask you a question. When you cut an apple, you notice that the flesh turns brown after a few minutes. That's because once the flesh is exposed to oxygen, the polyphenols in the fruit convert into melanin, an iron-containing substance that creates the brown color. This is why grocery stores are spraying pre-cut fruit with carcinogenic sanitizers like chlorine to keep them looking fresh. At the end of 2023, pre-cut fruit was linked to an outbreak of foodborne diseases with 407 cases across 44 states, causing 158 hospitalizations and 6 deaths. Not to mention that they are wrapped in plastic, which are also consuming and much more expensive than the fresh food that you can buy on your own. If you found this helpful, make sure to share it, comment the word email below, and I'll add you to my daily uncensored email where we talk about topics like this every day.
All right, let's break this down. His first point is to stop buying pre-cut fruit. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide, but hear me out first and then make your decision. Okay, so he understands why people are buying this, right? And why it's growing in popularity. Because there seems to be more convenience and you don't have to cut it. Yeah, so when you don't have to cut, you don't have to make a mess, which is convenient. It also is time saving for a lot of people. You might also be eating fruits you would never buy on your own, like a pineapple or a watermelon, because it's either too big or you don't feel confident in cutting it, especially if you're 2 people or live alone and you can't eat that much fruit before it goes bad. And it takes up less space. Those are all some pretty good reasons to eat pre-cut fruit. But yeah, you can stick a fork in it and just eat it. Now, before I get into the rest of the video, if you were to ask me, should you be eating pre-cut fruit? I would tell you, well, if that gets you eating more fruits and vegetables, yeah, do it. Especially if your goal is fat loss, it's a good volume food, hits that sweet tooth from time to time, and helps to keep your calories down and your nutrients high. His second claim starts by him saying, this is how they're poisoning you. Let's remember that. The example that he uses to try to illustrate his point is that when you cut into an apple, the flesh turns brown. So he is kind of right on the mechanism of action and what's happening with the apple turning brown. The apple turns brown because the polyphenols on the flesh of the apple starts to react with the oxygen once it's sliced. So once the apple has access to oxygen, it starts to brown in a process called oxidation. Now, if you remember early grades of science, we covered something called antioxidants. Now, what does that mean? An antioxidant is something that is anti that oxidation. So something that prevents oxidation. If you guys remember the earlier stages of science classes, in Canada, it would have been grade 9 or 10, we covered a very common antioxidant that a lot of us consume day to day, vitamin C. Now, in the video that you're seeing right now on screen, I'm going to slice one apple in half. You'll see that this one side is going to remain unadulterated, and the other side, I'm just going to put very simple lemon juice on top. Lemon juice is high in vitamin C. Vitamin C is an antioxidant. Now watch over time what happens to these 2 slices of apple. I'm not sure if the lighting is good enough and that you can see it in this short period of time.
All right, another minute later, we've already got a lot more browning happening. Here, I'll try to, there you go. The lighting is a little bit strong here, but there you go. A lot more browning. And this one, literally still the same.
But after just 5 minutes, you can already see that one of the slices is browning completely and the other one more or less looks the exact same. Why is that? Because the lemon juice is stopping that reaction of the polyphenols oxidizing, which is preventing that brown color from being formed. That brown color isn't necessarily bad per se, but it definitely wouldn't sell, right? Like when you see a browned apple, you're like, I don't want that. So they don't have to use things like chlorine. They just have to use antioxidant-rich mixtures. And in a lot of cases, they will use things like lemon juice because when you bite into an apple that has been sprayed with lemon juice, it's just like a little bit more of a tart apple. It's also especially important to note that they'll sometimes pair fruits that are high in vitamin C with things like apples, so that a kiwi, for example, will provide the vitamin C and not need the lemon juice. And that example aside, not all the fruits and vegetables are sprayed to look better. Because do you remember that first part that he mentioned at the very beginning? When it's exposed to oxygen. Think back to the last time you were buying pre-cut fruit at the grocery store. What was a very common trend in the packaging that you were looking at? And unfortunately, it's one of the potential cons of this is that the pre-cut fruit comes in a plastic packaging, because you're then able to keep out as much oxygen as possible so it can stay on the shelf with a very limited access to oxygen, which will decrease its rate of oxidation and increase its shelf life and increase the likelihood that you will actually buy it and eat it and be satisfied with it so that you'll buy it and eat it again. Let's look at his third claim about foodborne illnesses related to pre-cut fruits and vegetables. Now, is it true that you are potentially increasing your risk of foodborne illness because you're buying something that has been processed? Processed, by definition, is literally just the cutting and packaging of the pre-cut fruit. Yes, of course. There could be cross-contamination of the knives, although heavily unlikely because they're not usually going to be close to any raw meats or anything, but more than likely, it's just sheer luck. There are plenty of cases of foodborne illness every single year. If we zoom in on any single food group, we can find plenty of reasons to not eat them if that is our biggest fear within the food. Another reason why fruits and vegetables are particularly at risk is because, well, with fruit, you're not usually cooking them. So while it's not super likely that you'll get a lot of pathogens on your food, if there are some pathogens on your food, which by the way, you can't see with your naked eye anyways, you have a higher likelihood of potentially getting sick because you're eating them raw and you're not cooking the fruits, killing the pathogens. And while cooking works for most pathogens, it doesn't work for all pathogens. So that is why every single food across the board has a potential risk for foodborne illness. And that doesn't exclude water as well. This video is a classic example of fear mongering. In every single classic example of fear mongering, at the end of the video, what is present?
If you found this helpful, make sure to share it, comment the word email below, and I'll add you to my daily uncensored email where we talk about topics like this every day.
That right there is called a call to action. And every video, including my own, has a call to action. What's a very common YouTuber call to action? Hit that subscribe button, follow, like. His call to action is to get you on his email newsletter so that he can sell you something in the future. He's using a scare tactic to get lots of clicks, to get lots of views, and for scared people to get into his email newsletter, to be able to sell them something. Because fear sells better than anything else. So I guess what I want to say with this video is that if your reason for not eating pre-cut fruits is because of what this fella said, it's unfortunate, because then you'll be missing out on the potential to get more fruits and vegetables in on your diet. Now, if you have other reasons, I completely understand, like it's not cost effective for you, that's completely fine. I completely understand. You can purchase the fruit and cut it yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. And I encourage you to do it. I do it all the time. But in that sneaky moment where you're out and about in a grocery store or at a gas station somewhere on a road trip, those are the moments where that convenience can help be the difference between you getting fruits and vegetables that day or not getting them. And with all that said, I'm going to continue with my call to action as promised. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you are new. Comment if you learned something or how you felt about this video. If you got any feedback, let me know. Like the video, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video.